Hello, BookTube. I have a quick mail haul for you here. We'll try not to linger too long until I get back to writing about the Italian Renaissance. I'm sorry about the shaky cam. Once again, the MacBook is on a pile of pillows, and I was. It's the end of the year, so I'm getting more and more reflective as every day goes on. And I was thinking yesterday. I was thinking about how I really ought to see if I can pile some big books here and put the MacBook on top of them so that it's not quite so shaky. Uh, and I thought, well, gee, you've made lots of videos on this bed without without the MacBook being shaky. Why is it all of a sudden shaky? And then I had one of those moments, one of those little unexpected grief moments. I swear, you don't know when they're going to happen. You really don't. You walk right into something, a favorite location that you and your loved one loved for years, and you think, well, I'm going to go to pieces. And you don't. You enjoy yourself just fine. And then you're rummaging through a cupboard and you find a little thing that you'd completely forgotten that reminds you of them, and you lose it completely. And I didn't lose it completely, but I had a moment, and it was because of this shaky cam. Because the other day I realized, well, the reason it wasn't shaky before is because it was on Lucy, my enormously fat basset hound. I don't know if you've ever met a basset hound, but when you put your hand on them, it sinks in like shag carpet. I would put the laptop on her, and it was as stable as could be, and she certainly wasn't going to wake up and move. So that hit me out of the blue. But I'm going to fix this. I really am, because I don't want a shaky cam any more than you do. I'm hard enough to look at. But let's go through these. We've got a few packages here, and it ends with a box. So we'll see what we've got here, and I'll try to keep my bouncing around to a minimum. Let's see here. Okay. All right. This is not something I requested. This is due in. It's a paperback that comes out in mid-March. It's by Brock Clark, and it's called "The Price of a Haircut." Well, that'll be the American cover. It hardly needs saying. But what have we got here? 11 wickedly funny and unsettling stories. Slow down there, Seymour. I'll quite literally be the judge of that. Each of Clark's stories offers a complete submersion into a whimsically distorted world. Well, that's what short stories are supposed to do, right? You're not supposed to be dipping your toe in. There's supposed to be a whole world. In the Pity Palace, a lonely man in Florence. Oh, it's pity, P-I-T-Y, not P-I-T-T-I. Oh. See what he did there? A lonely man in Florence, Italy, thank you, tries to win back his wife, who may or may not exist, from the novelist Mario Puzo. Oh my God, I didn't see that coming. Who may or may not still be alive. Oh, I love it. I love it. I want to read that story right now. Oh, I'm jostling the camera, sorry. In Concerning Lizzie Borden, Her Axe, My Wife, a husband and wife try to get beyond a marital speed bump and decide to spend a night in the bed and breakfast that was once the home of infamous axe murderer Lizzie Borden. In Children Who Divorce, the child actors from the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory recreate their roles in a dinner theater sequel. But despite having grown older, they have never actually grown up. All right, well, okay. I might hate the cover of this thing, and I might think that... Okay, I'm on board, is what I'm trying to say. If these things are even half as interesting as their summaries, I'm on board. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so The Price of a Haircut. That's wonderful. What an interesting way to start. All right, so what are we gonna? Let's move on here. Let's move on here. I mean, in these lonely mail hauls, these are lonely mail hauls, aren't they? My mail hauls are lonely. Because these books don't show up anywhere else on BookTube. No one else holds The Price of the Haircut up on camera and says, oh, look, I just got this in the mail. They're lonely. These are lonely mail hauls. None of these books are going to be in anybody else's video. They're only going to show up on people's TBRs if they put there because of this video. But it's all right. Don't you worry about me. Oh, good. Okay, this is the finished copy of... this comes out in early January. I don't think we saw this. I think I might have opened the advance copy. off camera. This is William Marx. This is The Hatred of Literature. His crackpot manifesto. For the last 2,500 years, literature has been attacked, booed, and condemned, often for the wrong reasons and occasionally for very good ones. You just imagine, just try and think how many parts of that sentence are wrong. The Hatred of Literature examines the evolving idea of literature as seen through the eyes of its adversaries. Ooh, that's interesting, isn't it? Philosophers, theologians, scientists, pedagogues, and even leaders of modern liberal democracies. From Plato to C.P. Snow to Nicolas Sarkozy. Literature's haters have questioned the value of literature, its truthfulness, virtue, and usefulness, and have attempted to demonstrate its harmfulness. Has Sarkozy ever said he hates literature and that it's harmful to society? I'd be amazed if I missed that. But Plato certainly did. So, okay, well, I have had the advanced copy of this, and I haven't read it. So I will do that as soon as. Wait a minute. This is translated by Nicholas Elliott. Translated by Nicholas Elliott. Why do I know that name? I know that translator. Nicholas Elliott, where are you? Where? I keep thinking along the lines of Penguin Classics. When you have a Penguin Classic that is a translation, the first page is a long paragraph of the author, and at the bottom there's a paragraph of the biography of the translator. I was just actually looking for that, and I didn't see it. Oh no, I know what this is. Oh God, I don't have it here. I just read a translation by this guy, by this same one, Nicholas Elliott. Well, it's good to know he's getting work. I know how that feels. He's probably cutting down on his own BookTube videos. I just read a translation of his, a history called The Sea of the Caliphs, also by Harvard, I think. I wonder if he's sort of on call with them for French translations. I just read a translation of his of a book about the forces of Islam and the Caliphate in the Mediterranean in the Middle Ages, and I was about a third of the way through the book when I started to become curious how good the translation was. So I downloaded the original and read it, and the translation is excellent. In some ways, even better than the original. So I wonder if that'll be true here. I'm going to have to remember his name. Nicholas Elliott is a very good translator. I'm going to have to remember his name and look for it. Okay, well, anyway, that was an even more pointless digression than usual. See what I mean? I recognize the name of a French translator from a book about medieval Islam. It's a lonely channel. This is a lonely BookTube channel. Anyway, let's see here. Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so this comes out in February. This is the advanced copy of something that I believe will be a hardcover. Yes, okay. And this is What Are We Doing Here? Essays by the great Marilyn Robinson, who's one of a rare handful of authors, of serious heavyweight authors, who do both sides of the street, as it were. She comes out with a novel. The whole literary world drops what it's doing to read it, and read it seriously. Not say, what are you doing now? But read it seriously as a major work of literature, something that will probably outlive them. But when she comes out with a collection of essays, they do the same thing. And her essay collections are sometimes hit and miss with me. But I'm always, she's the real deal. So, okay, great. All right, so a collection of essays. So we're all over the map here. We've got two nonfiction, both sort of Bellatra, both sort of ideological, and one collection of short stories. Okay, this comes out in May. It is A Naturalist at Large. The collected essays of Bern Heinrich, who did Ravens in Winter. A great book called Ravens in Winter, and also The Mind of the Raven. He's a fantastic, fantastic bird writer. The best that there is in the world. Just, I cannot praise him high enough. And this is a collection of his occasional stuff, which is great. Because you would, I love his work, but you would miss it. There are plenty of times where I don't see that month's issue of Natural History or Nature or whatever. And if he has a 4-page essay in there, or a 6-page, or God forbid a 10-page essay, I'll miss it completely. So I kind of sort of rely on collections like this, on them happening. Great. Oh, fantastic. Okay. All right. That's 2 essay collections in a row, and Steve could not be happier. All right. So let's move on here. Oh, I've got... This is awful. I've got a whole bunch of things here that I want to jump in and read right away, and that's the one thing I can't do. Let's see here. Oh my. Okay. All right. This comes out in January. Goodness gracious. This is by Josephine Quinn, and it's called In Search of the Phoenicians. Who's Josephine Quinn when she's at home? She's associate professor of ancient history at the University of Oxford. Well, okay. I was all ready to snark, but like any other sensible person, if your bio note starts with that you're a professor of ancient history at the University of Oxford, I kind of shut the F up. Okay. All right. The Phoenicians traveled to the Mediterranean long before the Greeks and Romans, trading, establishing settlements, and refining the art of navigation. But who these legendary sailors really were has long remained a mystery. In Search of the Phoenicians makes the startling claim that the Phoenicians never actually existed. Taking readers from the ancient world to today, this monumental book argues that the notion of these sailors as a coherent people, with a shared identity, history, and culture, is a product of modern nationalist ideologies and a notion very much at odds with the ancient sources. Oh my God, I want to read this right away. Oh, it's happening with every one of these books, and it's the one thing I can't do. As soon as I'm done bobbling this camera, I've got to get back to work. Okay, all right. I have scarcely encountered a book here that I don't want to read right away, right now. All right, we've got 2 more here. I don't think that streak is going to continue. We're bound to hit a dud. I can't believe I'm in the position of almost wishing that I did. Let's see. All right, this comes out in August. That's the latest date I have. And it's what I was telling you the other day. It's Oxford University Press, and that's just what they're like. Either they send you an advance copy for August when it's December, or they send you a finished copy and say, hey, doesn't this look great? Put it on your roster. And it's from 2 months ago. This is The Kingdom of God Has No Borders, a global history of American evangelicals. Oh, by Melanie McAllister. Many practitioners of Christianity consider love, compassion, and forgiveness to be cornerstones of their faith. Yet some of the world's most fervent Christians, American evangelicals, today have a reputation for intolerance and fanaticism that has spilled over into modern-day politics. Over the last 50 years, conservative Christianity has been analyzed and overanalyzed, declared triumphant, and given up for dead. But the global evolution of this American movement has long been overshadowed by domestic controversies. Okay. All right. There was a little bit of a slip that went on there. Did you catch it? It was I have many Christian viewers. I know you must have caught it. It jumped out right at me. Many practitioners. Well, let's do it again. Here we've got the time. We're not going anywhere. I've long since stopped interesting you. I might as well. The many practitioners of Christianity consider love, compassion, and forgiveness to be cornerstones of their faith. Yet some of the world's most fervent Christians, American evangelicals, today have a reputation for intolerance and fanaticism. Over the last 50 years, conservative Christianity has been analyzed and overanalyzed. Did you get it? Did you see it that time? We went from fervent American evangelicals to conservative. We went from the one to the other, as if they're the same, as if a conservative Christian must be a fervent evangelical. Okay, well, let's hope that isn't reflected in the book, or from a bloodthirsty reviewer's standpoint, let's hope it is. The author offers a daring new perspective on conservative Christianity. There it is again. an equating of conservative Christianity with evangelical Christianity. What? Okay. That to me bespeaks an author with a political axe to grind, and that should have no place in a historical study of. Oh, all right. Let's continue. uh, uh, this sweeping narrative of the past half century of evangelical history has the distinction of providing the very first transnational study of American evangelical politics, and that part was in bold-faced type. I have no idea what a transnational study is, but I'll be able to figure it out in the first 50 pages of the book, I'm sure. Weaving a fascinating tale that upends all we think we know about American evangelicals, McAllister takes us from the Congo of the 1960s to current conflicts between evangelical Christianity and Islam at flashpoints across the globe. Numerous races, classes, and nationalities are included in this fascinating analysis of the global ramifications of this subsidiary religion. The dichotomy and apparent hypocrisy of the movement are also I detect an axe to grind, maybe just in the person who wrote this. Okay, the dichotomy and apparent hypocrisy of the movement are also explored in painstaking details, addressing head-on questions such as why Christian leaders have fought to stem the tide of HIV/AIDS in Africa, while at the same time supporting harsh repression of gay communities. Okay. All right. Well, it's due in August. Okay. All right. I'm being a bit paranoid, I realize, but I'm sensing the dead hand of Christopher Hitchens. And I admit I'm a little attuned to that because Hitchens' books sold like the devil. It still does. God is Not Great sold like crazy, and it still does. And the picture it paints of Christianity couldn't be bleaker or darker or more horrible. And he spares no small amount of attention to Christianity in Africa. And oh boy. Oh boy. Until you've been lied to and had the evidence massaged by a master right in front of your face, you just don't know what it's like. You know, if I were a publisher at Oxford or Random House or something, and I had a budget that Stephen King hadn't sucked dry in the name of putting good literature out there in the world, I would offer a commission to somebody to write a book about Christianity, even transnational Christianity. I would commission them to dig into the records and find the people who don't want the good they do put on paper. They don't want anyone to know about it. They don't want to crow about it at all. And get them to crow about it on camera or on a tape recorder and write a 900-page book. And you know what? I would ask that author to call it The Good We Do as a counterpoint to this idea of predatory Christian missionaries running rampant all over the developing world, crushing gay communities. That's a rant for another time, perhaps for SteveCon 18. I sense an axe to grind in the description of that book, and of course, because of that, I want to read the book immediately, and I can't do that. But you know, if I were to make a statement, an incredibly controversial statement in the 21st century, especially among a brainy crowd like BookTube, if I were to make the debate assertion that Christianity has done more good in the world than any other single force in the history of humankind, and if I were to double down on that and say I'm not just saying that because there have been more Christians than any other group in the world numerically, I'm saying proportionally more good. But the reason that it's easy to discount or not even to know it is because a huge percentage of it has been quiet good. A huge percentage of it has been quiet good, as Christians are actually enjoined to make it. You are not to crow about the good you do. You are not to let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. You're not doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for adulation. If I were to make such a statement, I could back it up. Whereas a gin-soaked blowhard like Christopher Hitchens taking the stage already drunk at 7 in the evening to go on and on about I realize it's a complicated subject and we're way off field. It's just, it bugs me sometimes. It bugs me. I have known in my life many, 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 many Christians who did good all the livelong day at huge expense to themselves, at huge financial, emotional, physical risk to themselves, without ever asking anything. And if you ask them at the end of their lives, what did you do? They'll say, I didn't do much. I wasn't worth, as the phrase used to be, I wasn't worth the price that was paid for me. I tried my best. And if you ask them for specifics, they won't give them to you. You'll just smile, turn their face toward the wall, and die. And a huge record of good is thereby extinguished, leaving a large impression of bad. Well, I'm not saying that the bad isn't there, but it drives me nuts that the cartoonish exaggeration of the milquetoast Christian who won't ever speak up for themselves. The Ned Flanders characterization of Christianity. Anyway, how do we get off on a tangent about religion of all things? Oh no! Oh God! Well, all right, we're back to religion and hardcore religion this time. How long will Israel survive? Oh, you thought I could be offensive about Christianity? Oh my! Oh no! Okay. Israel is surrounded by an array of ever-changing threats. But what if the most serious challenge comes from within? There was once a national consensus in Israeli society. Politics was split between left and right, but its people were broadly secular and liberal. Over the past decade, the country has fractured into disparate groups with little shared understanding of what it means to be a Zionist, let alone an Israeli. A once unified population fights battles over religion and state, war and peace, race and identity. Well, that's a fascinating take, isn't it? So this author is saying that this book is going to concentrate on not the external struggle, but the internal struggle of the state of Israel. That's interesting. The book asks a pressing question: will the Middle East's strongest power survive its own internal contradictions? Huh. Okay, and this comes out, okay, this is Oxford University Press. This comes out on December 1st, which was a long time ago, but that's all right. We're close enough. Okay, that's fascinating. If its greatest threat is from within, most serious challenge comes from within. I don't know about that. The book's going to have a little bit of work to convince me that disunity amongst rival factions of your own democratic society is a greater threat to your survival than 8 Arab countries all around you who want to wipe you out. They don't want to cut off trade with you. They don't want to stop immigration with you. They don't want to increase tariffs with you. And they don't want to conquer you in war. Because if you conquer somebody in war, you're left with a nation and a conquered people. 8 Arab countries around Israel want to destroy it completely, to wipe it out, to push its population into the sea. That's a different thing from internal struggles in the Knesset. That's also a different thing from people around you who don't particularly like you. At the moment, in the waning days of 2017, there aren't many nations in the world particularly like America. But you'd be hard pressed to find one that would want to destroy all, that would want genocide, that would openly say it in international conclaves and at the UN. You'd be hard pressed to find that. But you wouldn't have to ask more than 10 people in conservative politics in the Middle East before, outside of Israel, before you get someone in a position of power, in a position of public authority, who'll say, yeah, I'd like to wipe it out. I'd like to wipe it out completely. Maybe, if I'm feeling humanitarian on the day in question, I might give them 12 hours warning so that a lot of them could flee to America, to New York, to Manhattan. But if I'm not, then not. They don't give us warning, or they give us perfunctory, insulting warnings before they drop bombs. You could easily find. Wow, that's fascinating. So this author is saying that it takes a second place to fracturing from within. Okay, well, this is disastrous. This is utterly disastrous. I want to read and argue with and maybe be convinced by almost every single one of these books, and I can't. They all have to wait. So let's do the pyramid of pain, shall we? There's how long will Israel survive? There's the kingdom of God has no borders about global evangelicalism, global American evangelicals going elsewhere. In search of the Phoenicians, and the author says they didn't exist, so good luck finding them. It's like a trick version of Where's Waldo. Then a naturalist at large, Bernhard Heinrich, his essays, oh my God. And on top of that, Marilyn Robinson, one of our towering great literary figures, with a collection of essays. These too are probably collected from places elsewhere. I guarantee you I haven't read them all. And grappling with that mind of hers, who wants to put that off in order to do paid work? And then the hatred of literature, where by the end of discussing it, I was more enthused about the translator than I was about the work, which is kind of bad. And the price of the haircut, which, a collection of the made-up stories, I admit didn't trip my trigger when I opened it, but then I started reading about it. Now I want to read them all. So I hope the rest of you have good reading. Don't you worry about me. I'll be fine.